rolling.
I'm just, okay, go ahead. Never mind.
You sure?
Yeah, it was very important. I was just reading reviews of the new Looney Tunes.
Come on, Joe, let's get going here. What are you waiting for?
They're about 50-50.
Fratelloni's Hardware and Garden Stores brings you Garage Logic Podcast number 1036. This is March 14th, 2023.
That's what I heard.
On this day in 2012, when nature gave us a blessing, it was 73 degrees, one of the most beautiful springs.
Nice.
Well, the most beautiful spring of my lifetime was 2012. And back
You
in
okay?
Back in 1897,
Sinatra song or something.
on this day, it was 10 below.
When I was 21.
It was 73.
On the east shore of Spoon Lake. It's Garage Logic with Chris Reavers manning Technology Corner, Kenny Olson from the Krabby Coffee Shop, John Heidt in the newsroom, and of course, the Rookie. Here is your flashlight king, fireworks commissioner, and the keeper of common sense, your mayor, Joe Souchere.
You know what I'm hoping?
What are you hoping for?
I'm hoping State Representative Tory Westrom has a sense of humor.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure.
He's the rep that fell off the sled.
Yep.
And he's all right. He's going to be okay, I guess. But we saw the picture of him, and I said, was that taken before or after he fell off the sled? And we got at least a dozen emailers who are pointing out to me that he's blind.
Got it.
So,
Message received.
well, he was blinded in one eye at the age of 14 in a car accident on his family's dairy farm. So, no, Westrom cannot see behind himself.
Got it. Got it.
That remark.
You just never know, do you, Joe?
Had he been the first LGBTQ RSVTUV plus one member, the news story would have noted that he was a first.
This is why I try to tell you daily to self-edit.
What
You
fun
tell
is that?
me?
Yeah, try not to blurt, Sue.
What fun is that?
You're the...
You know anything about doing this job? What's your deal?
For your info, Mr. Westrom is blind. He doesn't make a big deal of it and goes about his days like most of us do. Probably better. I'm sorry. Tori, I hope you have a sense of humor. We were just having fun because you had a kind of a googly-eyed look there. I didn't know.
Don't make it worse.
Right.
Just
Soldier on.
apologize and move on.
Joe, I'm crying listening to you talk about Senator Westrom's snowmobile accident.
Did get a lot of emails.
Tori has represented us here in West Central Minnesota for many years, and as a garage logician, he has represented us very well. He is legally blind. That's why his eyes are like they are, and I consider him a great representative and friend. Thanks for keeping me entertained and informed. That's from Pablo.
Well, if he's legally blind, how did he drive the snowmobile?
He was the passenger.
He was ridden.
Eric writes, just a heads up, Tori is blind. I think he's been blind since grade school. Super good dude, obviously, since he was on a sled. He was one of the first Minnesota State reps and Minnesota State senators to flip an out state seat from an old school Blue Dog DFL to Republican. Anyway, heads up. Thank you, Eric. Right. And finally, we get a note from Mitch, who writes, I'm sure you've been told, but Tori Westrom was blinded in an accident as a teenager. That's why he has the wonky eye. It's a good example of people doing what they can with their life instead of sitting on their butt collecting disability. He went to school, I believe, to be a lawyer and runs his own business. I suspect he's a good enough guy that he won't be bothered by you morons making fun of his disability. Well, I didn't even consider it a disability. I just thought he took a funny picture.
I didn't make fun of him at all, and he is truly one of us.
Yeah, Tori, God bless you. Thank you.
He is truly one of us because he's now been in a snowmobile crash. We all have.
Yeah, I have not. Yeah, I tipped over on one.
I've never been on one in my life.
Well, we're kind of questioning your card membership as a GLer anyway, Suit. So, it doesn't surprise me at all.
You know, Marty's been bugging me to read this.
What do you got?
Well, you'll be the judge.
Okay.
You ready?
I'm ready.
It was a cloudy, damp spring morning, and all eyes in Gumption County were on the west side of Spoon Lake, focused on a small 1920s cottage just down the street from the Cylinder Index Hall of Fame. It was the home of 84-year-old small engine mechanic Harold Hovde, the space management master. This wasn't just any spring morning. This was the morning of the first snow following the second Tuesday of March. It was Space Management Day. On this occasion each year, Gumption County residents would look to Harold and his worn red aluminum Ames snow shovel to find out if there would be 6 more snows of spring. Downtown at Marjorie's Bakery next to the Krabby Coffee Shop, the crowd buzzed like a hive waiting a new queen. Will he do it, was the question of the day. People coming in for the award-winning caramel rolls and black coffee would look to the corner to a group of regulars sitting around the small round table and ask, will he do it? You see, unlike another silly spring ritual near the city's tallest buildings out east, Space Management Day was a practical sign of spring and a release of winter responsibility. Will he do it? Will Harold Hovde reach for his trusty, well-oiled, well-used shovel and start clearing his walk and driveway? Or will he give the fresh, heavy white blanket a simple up nod and go back into his house? If he gives it a nod, Space Management is done for the winter and the garage door opener is near. If he goes for the shovel, there will be another 6 snows.
Wow.
And the residents would need to have a care while they maintained their space and took care of the city's sidewalks. Bucky, the sole reporter for the Gumption County Gazette, who worked out of his house since the pandemic and could no longer find his office, was holding court in the corner telling everyone of the first Space Management Day in 1966. When following the historic blizzard a week earlier, Harold completely ignored an 8-inch snowfall, watching it completely melt by noon. Harold was a master indeed. Either way, the men and women around Spoon Lake would gather later at the sensitive male Pale Ale Brewery and carry on with their lives, awaiting the garage opener, which would happen around the lilac bloom as always. They are Gumption County residents, after all, and space management is just something that needs to be done. And Harold, well, Harold will put a fresh coat of WD-40 on the old Ames and hang it on the hook in the garage, ready for the next snow, no matter when it would be.
Wonderful.
Space Management Day is a pretty interesting day. Let other places like Gobbler's Knob have the rodent that comes out of the ground.
Groundhog Day.
This is Harold Hovde. If he shovels, there's 6 more snows.
Right.
If he doesn't, we're off the hook.
I think I know what you're saying. I think I know what you're saying.
Thank you, Marty. You know what you can do, Reavers?
I didn't say anything.
You don't have to say anything. I have 2 notes from Scott from Inver Grove. Yes? What do you want?
Nothing.
What are you doing?
I'm trying to fix this camera.
Yes.
Scott from Inver Grove.
I don't have
Where
time
is
for a
Scott?
meeting. I don't have time for a
Yeah,
meeting
we got to
today.
get back here.
He said one of his men's club brothers, he belongs to one of those luncheon men's clubs,
Yeah.
is a longtime ground supervisor of a notable local area cemetery. Each week he provides us with a frost report to include a flood forecast report. He has consistently stated throughout this winter that the frost is not deep. I think I said something to this effect yesterday, but I'm not as clear on it as a cemetery caretaker. That the frost is not deep, noting that the morons that make up news gathering sources are clueless. He predicts very little flooding and actually a shot in the arm for the drought conditions. He ends his report by saying, "We always warm the ground before we put you down."
Okay. Clever.
And Scott from Inver Grove also notes he was at Sam's Club the other day picking up weekly provisions.
Okay.
As his customer, every shopper who buys goods from the store must wait in line to exit the store. I didn't know that. I'm not a member.
Yeah, I am.
What?
A clerk randomly chooses 3 items in the cart being scanned to make sure the items are on the receipt that is also scanned. For law-abiding citizens, it's an annoying but tolerable event. However, for shoplifters, it's like a form of Russian roulette to see if they catch you stealing anything, knowing that no police will be called if they do.
Right.
Many times I have witnessed the clerk tell someone that they failed to scan an item. With no punishment, the guilty party simply hands over the item, and while my blood boils at this blatant attempt to steal from the store. This past Sunday, 2 parents full of expensive tattoos sporting 2 young children were directly ahead of me. Their cart was full of expensive meats, etc. The clerk started scanning, and almost every item had not been purchased. Meanwhile, the 2 innocent kids said, "Mommy, why are we having to take these things back?" My never afraid and always pushing back self loudly blurted out, "Because your parents are stealing, and that is simply not right," I told the mother. "How dare you commit this crime with your kids serving
Wow.
as innocent victims?"
Wow.
I said to all behind me. "This is why prices are climbing higher and higher, and it's simply shameful." As usual, the thieves were allowed to put back the items with no consequence. But for just a moment, I felt like those around me were given a GL primer on how we all need to speak up and start pushing back.
Yeah.
Never afraid and always pushing back, Scott from Inver Grove. Now, he did a real GL thing there.
Yeah. Called him out.
Yeah. I've done it. I did it with the girls at Walgreens. You got to do it. And the irony is that GLers do it, but the proprietors don't care. They're factoring that into their cost of business. Or, like Target, you just leave.
Well, it all started way
Close.
back when I worked at Dayton's, and their loss prevention said, you cannot touch them, you cannot do anything. And then the thieves they've known that since late 80s, early 90s. And they're just becoming more bold.
Yeah, but it's elevated now to cars. These car thieves are back on the street in 2 hours.
Right.
As a man whose wife has been
yeah.
a loss prevention officer for 40 years, the only rule most places have is you can't chase them out the door. So with Scott's situation here, if they just walked out the door, there's nothing that's going to be done anyway.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're not supposed to, and usually they get in trouble if they do that, loss prevention officers.
Yes, Chris?
You know, what are we, in year 3 now of Build Back Better?
Yes.
Did you see the latest from the IRS?
Is this a non sequitur?
No, it's dealing directly with what
I
you're
have
talking about.
not seen the latest from the IRS.
According to IRS publication 525, Joe and crew, taxpayers are now legally required to report the value of whatever property that they stole during the previous tax year. This is not
Are
a
you
joke.
gotta be kidding me.
SHITTING?
Are you kidding me?
The IRS's bewildering rule about self-reporting income from crimes has caused some Twitter users to mock the federal agency. Quote, "If you steal property, you must report its FMV, fair market value, in your income in the year you steal it, unless in the same year you return it to its rightful owner," the rule states.
You're having a laugh. You're having a laugh, aren't you?
I have a question.
Holy crap.
If I'm in a store and I witness a guy stealing an armful of goods and I trip him,
I wouldn't do that.
can I finish the question?
Good try, Chris.
And I trip him and the goods go splattering and he breaks his arm. Would I be sued?
Yes.
Isn't that something?
Yes.
Probably, yeah.
That's why I knew you were going somewhere. I said, then don't do it. Just
Isn't
don't get
that
involved.
something?
Well, that's why employers just tell their employees, don't get involved. Leave them be. Because you do not want to become a target. And like targets.
Wow.
But you can arrest them in the store from the experience my wife has.
You mean a
That's not a
citizen's
problem.
arrest?
No, as a loss prevention employee.
Right, but
Feel free
what I'm saying, John, is the 19-year-old cashier or the high school kid that's the cashier, they're always told don't intervene.
Yeah, they should call loss prevention.
right,
Exactly.
right.
Yeah.
So there you go, Joe. IRS is now saying you got to declare what you're stealing.
You know where
I thought
I'll tell you a store you're very safe in. Seriously, Moeller Jewelers.
Oh, yeah.
It's a comfortable, safe environment. And
It's a beautiful store.
well, the new one in Highland Park has been all remodeled. I'm talking about R.F. Moeller Jeweler, my jeweler, St. Paul's jeweler, Minneapolis jeweler. They've been in this business for more than 70 years. Family owned and operated since 1951. And in St. Paul, virtually on that same corner, Ford and Cleveland in Highland Park, in Edina at 50th in France. Great staff. I go to the staff. I don't need to. I don't need.
They don't come to you. You go to them.
I go to them. Birthdays, anniversaries, graduations, engagements, weddings, everything from sterling silver jewelry to fine jewelry to diamonds, sapphires, rubies, and other gemstones. It's fantastic. And, of course, the engagement rings, which you can design yourself. They've got an artisan and a computer program, and you can design whatever is your heart's content.
A BFD.
And it's handled in-house from start to finish.
Got it.
So are repairs. Designs you fall in love with and approve is exactly what you'll get, and a free lifetime warranty is all encompassing.
Copy.
If you were ever going to go into a jewelry store and find it relaxed and enjoyable, it would be R.F. Moeller Jewelers. 2 locations. Ford and Cleveland in St. Paul. That's right in Highland Park. And 50th in France in Edina. rfmoeller.com.
Hey, GLers, it's Reavers here, and you've heard me talk about my relationship with Josh Arnold for quite some time now. And the reason I advocate that you give Josh a call is simple. Well, actually, it's 2 reasons. Trust and results. Josh has seen it all when it comes to economic and market conditions. As he says, past results do not guarantee future returns. Well, that is true. Josh can make sure that your retirement objectives match your investments. And you can trust Josh to make sure that you are not paying more in fees than you are selling in returns. Yes, that is more common than you would think. So do yourself a favor by booking a 48-minute free consultation that has absolutely no obligation. Call Josh today at 952-925-5608. That number once again is 952-925-5608. You will be glad you did.
Investment services offered by Josh Arnold Investment Consultant LLC, a security investment advisor. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. All investments involve risk. All comments and opinions are Josh Arnold's and do not constitute investment advice.
Chris Reavers is a paid endorser.
The Liberty Safe March Madness sale happening right now through the end of the day today. It's at Maple Grove Lock and Safe. Today, the last day. You can save up to $400 through today on select Liberty Safes. The options, Centurion 24s, 40-minute fire protection, they're on the list. The USA Series on the list. The Colonial Series. The Fat Boy, that's a level 5 fire protection or level 5 security protection and a 110-minute fire rating. And the big one, the Lincoln Series, that's good for a 2-hour fire protection rate. All of them on sale. Save up to $400 through the end of the day today. The best safe you can buy, that would be the Liberty Safe. Transferable lifetime warranties. And thanks to Rich at Maple Grove Lock and Safe, professional delivery and installation. Stop in, meet and greet Rich. He's at 6901 East Fish Lake Road, and check out the entire lineup on the web, maplegrovelockandsafe.com.
Here's a man who spends hours in hardware stores, sifting through the nuts and bolts of life. Joe Souchere.
Let me tell you about Minnesota, Mississippi. I'm kidding. I couldn't resist. Joe, go ahead.
Wait, before you go, Joe, I have good news. Well, wait a minute. We're not on the air. This doesn't matter. They're
We're on the air.
They're finally clearing that crash on northbound 35E at Yankee Doodle right now. It happened at 5:30 this morning.
Jeez.
You'll recall, I believe it was Friday, could have been Thursday. We had the Star Tribune story by Dave Orrick of the Minneapolis race and equity official telling us that she funded a black expo in Minneapolis, promising funds that didn't exist. And we said, do anybody recall this story?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
And we said, well, then, John, if you do, it had to be Thursday we did this.
No, you did it Friday. I listened,
Oh.
but so.
Well,
yeah.
and I said, nothing will happen to Tyeastia Green, with this made-up job title. She won't be held accountable. Well, it turns out she is being held accountable, so I should correct myself.
Okay.
She made a false statement to the city council about a taxpayer-funded Black Expo, and now she's out. And the city auditor's office is opening a probe into the event. Tyeastia Green, who was hired a year ago to head what became the Department of Racial Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging, which is a non-existent job title, served her final day as a city employee yesterday, according to city spokesman Sarah McKenzie. The flurry of developments, Green's sudden departure, and the launch of a multi-stage probe by the auditor's office highlight the intense scrutiny Green and the Feb 25 event had come under.
Okay.
I'm surprised by all this. On Thursday, the Star Tribune reported that Green falsely told the city council that the Bush Foundation had been prepared to donate $3 million for that event.
Wow.
In fact, the city never formally applied for any money from the Bush Foundation, nor did they get any, according to the Bush Foundation and a subsequent statement from the city. In a response to the Star Tribune, Green said, "I put my resignation in February 21st for several reasons." Oh, so she really gets to walk. It sounds
But
like.
sounds like she's trying to make herself out to be the victim here for several reasons.
In communications to other city officials that she provided, Green stands by what she told the city council when she said the Bush Foundation was prepared to donate $3 million. But she didn't provide any details. Well, lady, it sounds like you're wrong. It sounds like they weren't prepared to donate the money you claimed they would. Their developments raise a number of questions around the planning of I Am My Ancestors' Wildest Dream Expo, which drew far fewer attendees than initially hoped and required an influx of taxpayer money. For example, Green told council members that she had secured $200,000 from 4 organizations, perhaps local corporations. She suggested the city had to return that because she unknowingly violated the city ethics code in how she solicited the donations. The same explanation she suggested for being unable to accept the non-existent $3 million from the Bush Foundation. The status of the purported $200,000 remains unclear, and Green has never provided an explanation for the statements surrounding the Bush Foundation. Green's comments to the full council came during a Feb 17 emergency meeting to plug a budget hole in that expo, the city's first African-American-centered event since the 2020 murder of George Floyd. Given that she had been caught off guard by certain requirements of the Minneapolis Convention Center, which hosted the event, and that prompted her to seek an increase in the city contract with Touched Apparel, an Atlanta-based company hired as event planner. The owner of Touch Apparel, Casey Ellerby, worked with Green on at least one event in Burlington, Vermont, when Green was that city's director of racial equity, inclusion, and belonging. God, they're like the super club. They just move around.
Yep.
Before being hired in Minneapolis, where she is originally from. Although several council members left the meeting with questions, the council unanimously approved plugging the hole with an additional $145,000, apparently bringing the total budget for the event to upwards of $500,000. Getting to the bottom of the funding and planning surrounding the event appears to be on the mind of the city auditor's office. On Monday, council members and the little guy, Fry, were informed the office will embark on a 3-stage examination of the event, according to an email from Council Vice President Linnea Palmisano. Palmisano also serves as chair of the Minneapolis Audit Committee, an independent panel that includes members of the city council. Palmisano said the plan for the auditor's role emerged following meetings and conversations that included Audit Committee Vice Chair David Fisher and City Auditor Ryan Patrick. So they got a 3-stage approach they're going to go after here. It wasn't clear last night what the city plans to do to replace Green, who oversaw at least 4 employees in her fledgling department, which falls under interim city operations officer Heather Johnston. What are we to make of this?
Well, she needs to go. Heather Johnston needs to go. The $500K worried me last week, and now it worries me even more. That's all taxpayer money. I want to know who received that. I want every single cent accounted for, and I want to know who gave the okay. And then you said the number was brought up to $500K with an additional $150K.
Right.
I want to know who okayed that and where that
the
went.
city council okayed that.
Well, there are then all of them are held liable for this $500K that the taxpayers are completely out of now.
Maybe I can answer you. Here's the 3-stage approach the city auditor's office will take. Let's see if this is satisfactory.
All right.
In a Garage Logic sense. Right. Number 1, Patrick, the auditor, Ryan Patrick, indicated the need for a formal review in response to external concerns, that would be Kenny's, over the expo. That language suggests such a review could look for any potential waste or potential fraud, and is the type of action Patrick has the authority to conduct on his own.
Okay.
Number 2, in addition, Ryan Patrick, the city auditor, believes he is obligated to conduct a review of city processes related to the expo. This review, which is distinct from one previously mentioned, can be conducted at the direction of Paul Massano and Fisher. And Paul Massano's email said they directed Patrick to proceed.
Okay.
And 3, lastly, Patrick further suggests this review will necessitate a more comprehensive audit. This audit, which would consider how to avoid any future problems, will be the subject of the Audit Committee's next scheduled meeting on April 24.
Okay, that satisfies me. It sounds like the adults have taken over. I'd like one more thing, number 4 added to that. Mm-hmm. Who are the children that authorize this, and how do we? This is just unacceptable.
One of the leading children would be Tyeastia Green.
Yeah.
The head of this ridiculous, non-existent for measurement office.
And the fact that she's not held accountable here, other than the loss of her job, isn't enough.
To me, it's mindful of the.
Yes, I know where you're going, and I agree. Yep,
Secretary of Education that Walls appointed, who just gets to go home in the midst of a $250 million food fraud. I don't want to linger on this, and I don't want to get angry, but I apologize for not remembering her name. Get the outgoing education director.
She's gone.
She gone. We never heard a word from her. Tyeastia Green is gone, but it sounds like maybe she just moves on now to Boise for this gig. I mean, it sounds like a superintendent's club. They just keep moving around, essentially untouched, although this 3-stage audit could find her culpable for something, and then it's up to the
the current one is Willie Jett, but that's the one that replaced the previous.
Right, I'm looking for the one who resigned and left.
Give me just a second.
Yeah, I didn't want to linger on it.
I'm fantasizing about criminal charges here, Such.
Well, we all do, and they never develop.
Carrie Lucking became executive director.
No,
in
Chris, I
2021?
said don't linger on it. Don't announce it to me until you've got the one who retired. Walls cabinet members retire. It happened around the first of the year of this year.
Jennifer Dugan.
No.
She was indicted.
Heather Mueller?
Thank you.
Mueller.
Rookie, write that down.
Heather Mueller.
And put it on the wall. Seriously.
Heather
put it on the wall there. Because her name will come up again. Because it's a thorn in my saddle that these people Walls appointed, they just skate. Who in God's name approved millions of dollars for a woman claiming to feed children in Pelican Rapids that exceeded the population of the city?
You can't see that, can you?
Well, put it where I can see it. Yeah, just at least we'll know it's there.
Yeah.
Heather Mueller.
Wouldn't that be funny if she came in and she thought this was her seat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In any event, I said Tyeastia Green will never suffer any consequences. Perhaps she won't, but she's left. Whatever compelled her to do that, she's undertaken that. She left.
It's like grabbing steaks and walking out of Sam's Club. And not paying for them.
Right. Well, not really.
I tried to get a food analogy.
Well,
in there,
the only way your analogy would work is if the audit discovers that she somehow pocketed some money. And we don't know
more,
that.
you know what?
Really
the
work.
analogy that works better, Rook, is she just wasn't feeling it.
Wasn't feeling it that day. No, just like Daytron. I wasn't feeling it.
But when this is what you get when you make up these jobs. You're not getting a great deal of tried and true responsibility or a track record that goes with them.
Isn't it great that they get to control and have access to taxpayer funds, and they haven't been elected?
Nope.
Haven't been approved by the public.
Well, we can go all over the map with that. Unelected people will determine the fate of Summit Avenue.
Yep. And the sidewalk hoopleheads over in Minneapolis, or the streets, or whatever the hell they're calling themselves now.
The unelected people of the Metropolitan Council continue to screw up Southwest Light Rail.
Yep.
Well, Tyeastia Green, Dave Orrick is a good reporter. Unfortunately, he's a word I can't say
Gotcha.
because he left the Pioneer Press for the safer haven, apparently, of the Star Tribune.
Yeah, you know
He's not the first.
You tend not to like that when guys do that, right?
But he's a very strong reporter, and I think he'll stay with this. I believe we'll learn more.
Okay. What you're saying is you have good faith in him.
Yeah, even though he jumped ship.
Yeah, you don't like that.
Like the
I like that he didn't use
rag he was.
He didn't use the lingo that was forgiving. You know what I mean? He laid it all out.
Yeah,
in that piece.
He's solid, and he'll have more on this unless his superiors quash it.
Ooh, call him off.
And I don't think they will. I think it's an important story. It's really going to become an interesting story if we found out Tyeastia just bought the Lamborghini like the food fraudsters. But we don't know that, do we?
We don't know that.
You want to come back with John Heidt?
First, I'd like to tell you.
No, I have an idea.
Yeah.
I have an idea. I'm not done with this segment.
Yes, you are. I think you're all done with this segment. There's absolutely nothing more you could add to this segment.
I have more.
Other than talking about Minnesota Masonic Charities.
Oh, my God.
They help people like Joe.
Doing this since the 80s.
They help people like Joe just go through life and make sure it's just much
I'm going
easier.
to need their service.
Well, Joe, you can learn the secret handshake, and we'll give you the funny hat to wear. But it is no secret. It's no longer a secret. Minnesota Masonic Charities, it's a group that in 2006 got together, and they realized that when they join forces, they can really help a lot of people, whether it's students with scholarships, whether it's the elderly and their #1 rated home that they run, or possibly it's just whatever need there is. There's kids that are in the
Do they have charities for nonverbal cues? Do they do
yes,
that at Minnesota
yes. There's a
Masonic?
program. I'm sure there's a program for that.
Come on, I'm not done with this.
Seriously, though, let me just let you know. Go to MinnesotaMasonicCharities.org. That's MNMasonicCharities.org. Learn about them. The reason they're on Garage Logic is to get the word out about the services they provide, their philanthropy. You can meet their leadership and learn about the student scholarships, which are done for the year. But look ahead for next year. Here's the number if you want more information, 952-948-6200, or again, the best place to learn more about them. It's a wonderful, wonderful website that tells it all, and the secrets are out. MNMasonicCharities.org, Joe.
Why was the idea of a black expo a good idea? I think these kinds of ideas are toppling under their own weight. I am my ancestors' wildest dream expo. Maybe it was because it's February and it's a Black History Month.
February was Black History Month, yes.
But it didn't draw anybody. And did it not draw anybody because they didn't have the money they needed to properly fund it? Or did it not draw anybody because it wasn't worth going to?
Good question. I can't answer that question, but it just doesn't. What do you do? What does the expo do?
Well, the title makes sense to me, and it kind of sets up what they were doing there. My beef is with the fact that it was funded by the taxpayers.
Right.
That's what makes no sense to me. This sounds like it should be a private function.
Well, that's going to be gotten to the bottom of, apparently, with this 3-stage audit, but it doesn't sound like it was much of a success. And again, that would be Tyeastia Green's fault. She's the head of this nonsense called equity, inclusion, and belonging.
It would be fun to talk to somebody who actually went. Didn't they have about 3,000 people
did the
show
Reverend
up?
go, I wonder?
Yeah, I don't know.
I doubt it. I doubt it. Yeah, about 3,000 people showed up.
Our guy Mickey. Yeah, I don't know.
I doubt it.
8218 Truce.
Mickey sounds like he doesn't get across the river.
Yeah, he's got his hands full.
Stays in St. Paul and takes care of business. Why don't we return with John Heidt?
Latte schmate. Here's Joe Souchere.
Yeah, speaking of space management, it won't be long. That snow on the lawn will be gone, and a beautiful lawn. It's just a click away, professionalturf.com. If you want the best lawn on the block, you've got to go with the pros at Professional Turf. They've been doing it for us since '82. They have service techs with over 20 years of experience. These guys service the same lawns every year, so they really get to know your lawn. You can schedule a free in-person lawn care analysis and an estimate right now at professionalturf.com. A ProTurf Pro will come out and assess your lawn. They're going to walk it and then come up with a custom slow-release fertilizer and weed control plan that's not only environmentally safe, but it's guaranteed for superior results. A beautiful, healthy lawn, free of crabgrass, free of dandelions and broadleaves. It's just a click away, my friend. ProfessionalTurf.com.
Here's Mr. John Heidt.
Thank you, Joe. An Eagan police officer is recovering from injuries after a crash that involved a squad car and a semi-truck early this morning. That crash involved at least 2 vehicles, closed the northbound lanes of I-35E at Yankee Doodle Road. Kenny, you just said, we just reopened, right? In the last half hour or
in
so?
the last 20 minutes. Yep, and at 12:30 is when it reopened. Yep.
Eagan police confirmed that one of their officers was involved in what they're calling a serious crash. The officer is now being treated at Regions Hospital. The officer's name and condition have not been provided so far. Eagan police say the Minneapolis State Patrol is taking the lead in this investigation. The company that handles recycling services for all of St. Paul is blaming this year's winter weather for what residents and city leaders say was about a month of missed pickups in parts of the city. Minneapolis-based Eureka Recycling has been on St. Paul's payroll handling pickups in snow-covered alleys since the 1980s, and city officials say its crews and trucks should be equipped for the current conditions. The St. Paul resident John Kinnepreth said Monday afternoon last Wednesday was the first time they did both sides of this alley in a month. The service has gone downhill. Like many across St. Paul, Kinnepreth says it's taking weeks for what should be a weekly recycling pickup. City of St. Paul doesn't plow alleys, so neighbors are responsible for banding together to plow their own.
Well, they're all plowed.
Get your
the
alley
alleys
cap.
are plowed.
That's the mistake right there.
No, the alleys are plowed.
We've had worse winters than this, and whenever I lived on Goodrich Avenue, Highland Sanitation never missed me once.
Well, let me tell you something. The people who haven't had it picked up for a month should get a
Credit.
A credit.
St. Paul is the most ass-backwards city I have ever encountered. This used to be handled by the private sector, correct, Joe? Trash and recycling pickup.
Trash
No.
did, but recycling's never been private. Trash
it's
was
always
private.
been city?
Yeah.
All right.
Maybe we should get another T-shirt, like the It'll Melt T-shirt from when we couldn't plow the snows to we'll get to it.
Yeah.
For trash.
Mine's been
Hang on.
picked up. I have no complaints.
all right.
It's people with bad alleys that aren't getting picked up. But you know what? It's winter. You
This
should be-
alley captain thing is the biggest crock of bull. So you're telling me the city-owned property, they will not plow city-owned property. That's what alleys are they not? In Minneapolis, they plow the alleys.
I don't know, but you're barking up the wrong tree.
Yeah.
The
Good
alleys are getting plowed, and you're trying to take money out of some guy's pocket. They're getting plowed by the plow guy down the street.
It sounds like he's doing a half-assed job to me.
Ward 7 council member Jane Prince expressed her disappointment in a newsletter over the weekend, adding the city received about 100 calls about missed recycling pickups in the last week alone. Asked if the company is responding to consumer complaints, Prince said, well, or they're responding with rescheduling pickups, and then they're missing the rescheduled pickups.
Throw it away. It probably gets thrown away anyway. Throw
A
it.
statement.
Throw it away.
Throw it away.
Eureka spokesperson said its crews have experienced what they call multiple slips, falls, accidents, and sliding trucks this winter. The company sent out additional crews in wake of the complaint, some working on the weekends. Susie Young is resident and employee services manager for the St. Paul Public Works Department. She says it's been a tough winter.
So what? So what?
That's what she said, Joe. I can't help you. We have lots of pothole stories this morning. Minneapolis city officials detailed the city's response to pothole problems today and asked for residents' help. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry and city officials encourage people to report potholes to Minneapolis Public Works by contacting 311 and providing as much detail as possible. Officials say the city prioritizes getting the worst potholes repaired first. According to a statement from Minneapolis Public Works, the city fills potholes with temporary cold patches until they can be permanently repaired during construction season. Minneapolis Public Works Director Margaret Anderson Kelleher and Minneapolis Transportation Maintenance and Repair Director Joe Pauman said the city will take an all-hands-on-deck approach to fixing potholes and is getting ready to add crews, add weekend hours, and also approve overtime. Meanwhile, in St. Paul, Public Works officials are calling this the worst pothole season in a generation, and Mayor Melvin Carter wants to raise taxes to try and fix the roads. Long stretches on several major roads have suffered from potholes. Carter tweeted last week in response to a state lawmaker who blew a tire, "We really do need to fix these darn roads. Luckily, we have a sales tax proposal at the legislature right now to do exactly that."
Amazing. What the hell are your property taxes
What
for?
a dingbat.
They put that proposition 1% raise to fix potholes in at the end of last year.
Are GLers required by a civil contract to tell others about their make-a-move routes? I don't think so.
No.
I have a pothole-free route from here to where I live. And it's nifty, and I'm not telling
I know what it
anybody.
is.
Well,
I
I don't want you to hear about it.
I think I've taken it
I don't
too.
want to hear about it.
Okay.
I don't want
I'm
to hear
not going to
about
say
it.
anything
No,
because it's
no, Joe.
traffic-free as well.
Yep.
Yep.
Joe doesn't want others to hear about it.
Traffic-free and pothole-free.
Yep.
He crosses over 94
Twice.
on Cretan.
Goes over Franklin, then goes down, comes over to Floyd Bridge.
Well,
But
you can
I'm-
have a laugh if you must
I'm
at
having a
my
laugh.
expense.
Andover is it's rife with potholes.
Yeah, it's where we live. You get potholes.
It can't be West Mississippi Boulevard. That's a land minefield. Oh, it is?
No, it isn't.
No, it's not.
Don't trick me into telling you what it is. Don't do that to me. I'm too gullible.
Moving right along for Joe's sake, Minnesota legislators will get a 7.25% raise in July. The state's appointed Legislative Salary Council boosted lawmakers' salaries by $3,500. They'll now make $51,750.
Nice raise.
It used to be a part-time job.
Yeah.
Pay bump will cost taxpayers about $810,000 a year, according to council staff. The 16-person salary council has 2 members from every congressional district, with half of them appointed by the governor, half appointed by the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, and it's evenly split between Democrats and Republicans. The Independent Salary Council gave legislators a 45% boost back in 2017. They were at that time making $31,000 and had been for 20 years. So that made their salary go from $31,000 to $45,000. Since then, they've made smaller hikes, but the 7.25% coming in 2023 will be the biggest jump. Now, to go along with that $51,000, senators currently also get, this is Senate now, $86 per diem, and House members $66 per diem. They also may qualify for reimbursements for lodging, travel, and other expenses. The sum lawmakers take home outside of their base salary varies widely. Some opt not to receive any per diem dollars. Others collect 10 grand or more just from per diems and often far more from reimbursements.
Well, a lot of those freeloaders show up every day just to get the per diem. They punch in and go home.
Kenny's plan is no more per diems, and when taxes need to be raised, theirs goes up more than the rest of ours.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Story we talked about briefly yesterday as it broke. The Target store in the uptown area of Minneapolis closing May 13th. Minneapolis-based retailer says the decision to close the store, quote, isn't something we take lightly and is made only after multiple years of trying to improve performance. Spokesperson says the 45 employees at that store will be offered job opportunities at nearby Target stores. The store, which is at 2,200 square feet, quite a bit smaller than your average full-size Target, opened in 2017. Target says it does not own the building at 1300 West Lake Street and is figuring out next steps with the building's landlord.
Uptown used to be one hell of a happening neighborhood.
It was. Uptown Art Fair was fantastic.
Just falling apart.
May 13th, you said, John?
Yes.
So if we're going to loot and rob that place, we got less than 2 months to go.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
The Basilica Block Party is on hold once again. The annual outdoor music festival did not take place in 2022, and it won't happen this year either. May Desari, Director of Marketing and Communications for the Basilica, said we are reconsidering for 2024, and we are considering it now on hiatus. When asked what that meant, she said we're reconsidering and leaving it at that for now. It was founded back in 1995 as a fundraiser to help pay for structural restoration of the Basilica of St. Mary in downtown Minneapolis. It was canceled in 2020 due to the pandemic. In 2021, the event moved from its typical mid-July date to September. But the day before the event began, Saturday night headliners, the Avett Brothers, canceled due to COVID-19 exposure. That leaves the Metro with no major outdoor summer festivals of this type. In September, organizers for both the long-running Rock the Garden and the new-to-the-market Twin Cities Summer Jam announced the festivals would not come back in 2023.
Why?
They didn't rock the garden.
Huh.
Promoter's not going to lose money on a show.
But COVID's done.
Yeah, but attendance even before COVID had begun to wane. Is that the right word?
Yes.
Wayne, good
Wayne
work,
works.
Thank you.
Very good.
Who taught you that?
I don't know.
Wayne McFarland did.
I read it in a comic book.
Got it.
A Russian fighter, I don't like this, collided with an American drone over the Black Sea March 14th, which would be yesterday, right? No, today. That's
Today.
So this morning, damaging the drone and causing it to crash, according to the U.S. European Command. The U.S. military said the incident occurred in international airspace following an unsafe and unprofessional intercept of an unarmed U.S. Air Force MQ-9 Reaper at 7:03 Central European Time. The U.S. routinely operates surveillance drones over the Black Sea, including near Russian-occupied Crimea. 2 Russian Su-27s dumped fuel and flew in front of the drone several times before eventually hitting the MQ-9's propeller, which is mounted on the rear, according to the U.S. military.
Them drones are something, aren't they?
They really are.
Yeah, it's just
You know?
bizarre.
You see where Pootie's taking tanks out of museums? He's running out of tanks, so he's pulling them out of museums.
He is hurt.
The old-time tanks.
Yeah.
Isn't Ukraine due for another cash call?
I think so.
Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky insisted his forces must win the battle for Bakhmut in Donetsk. I never say that right. Donetsk, eastern Ukraine, as doubts continue over whether Ukraine should spend more manpower and resources on defending the city. There are doubts over the merits of defending it, and the city is almost completely surrounded by Russian forces and mercenary units. Ukrainian military analyst Ole Zandov said Ukraine was suffering losses among reserves it intended to use in a planned counteroffensive against Russian forces that's expected to come in late spring. Meanwhile, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, considered a prime candidate to run for the Republican nomination for the presidency, has mentioned his first words on Ukraine, saying the U.S. shouldn't be helping. On Tucker Carlson's show, DeSantis separated himself from Republicans who say the problem with President Biden's Ukraine policy is that he's not doing enough. DeSantis called the war in Ukraine merely a territorial dispute and said that protecting the European nation's borders is not a vital U.S. interest. That point of view puts him in line with the man who he may take on for the Republican nomination, Donald Trump. This all started when Tucker Carlson sent a questionnaire to possible Republican candidates. The position taken by DeSantis and Trump is at odds with the support for defending Ukraine demonstrated by some other potential GOP candidates like Mike Pence, Nikki Haley, Chris Christie, and Senator Tim Scott. It's also sharply at odds with most Republican senators, including Mitch McConnell of Kentucky, the minority leader. We lost a fella in the sports world who was he was a part of my childhood, maybe yours too, Joe. I don't know.
Yep.
Joe Pepitone.
Yep.
Won 3 Gold Gloves at first base, played in 2 World Series for the Yankees, but who may best be remembered for his hair and his hijinks. Died at his home in Kansas City, Missouri. He was 82 years old. Pepitone, a fan favorite in New York, they called him Peppy. He was a local boy who came to the Yankees in 1962. His renegade nature would eventually cost him. He earned a reputation for wildness and unreliability in the 1980s. Long after his career ended, he went to prison on a drug charge. A cut up in the locker room, a jabber with the fans. He wore his hair long and poofy. He was famously the first Yankee to bring a hairdryer into the clubhouse and supplemented his hair with toupees. He led the life of a late-night social prowler, spreading money around, chasing women, and hitting notorious glam and trouble spots like the Copacabana. His career started great. 3 years, he was an all-star. First 3 years, hitting 27 home runs in 63, 28 in 64, 18 in 65, and 31 in 66. But of course, as Yankee fans know, after the 64 season, the Yankees took a large downturn after being the best American League team the last 2 decades. He finished his career with the Astros, the Cubs, and briefly the Atlanta Braves. His penchant for turning small bruises into major injuries was chronicled in Jim Bouton's brilliant Ball 4, and he claimed at one point to have turned Mickey Mantle and Whitey Ford onto marijuana. In an interview in Rolling Stone magazine, he recalled that when he was with the Cubs, fans in the bleachers would throw packets of joints and cocaine at him in the outfield. He'd hide them in the ivy that covered the Wrigley Field wall.
John, I haven't. Boy, wasn't he involved in some contretemps involving a hairdryer or his hair? I have this vague memory of some dust-up that involved hair.
The dust-up you're thinking of is the harmonica dust-up on the bus, the Yankee bus.
Oh.
Had nothing to do with his hair, but he did bring in Ball 4, Jim Bouton talks about him bringing a hairdryer into
Right.
the locker room and everybody making fun of him, but nothing with it. But the harmonica thing, the Yankees had lost. Yogi Berra was the manager. He was not happy. Phil Linz took out a harmonica and started playing it.
Oh.
Yogi Berra walked over and told him he was going to shove it up his bleep if he didn't quit playing it, and knocked it out of his hands. The harmonica hit Pepitone in the knee. This is just a small harmonica.
Right.
And Pepitone fell on the floor and grabbed his knee and went, "Oh, I'm injured. I'm hurt. I'm injured." And that made Yogi angry, obviously.
Okay.
The rest of the bus was trying desperately not to laugh at the whole thing. So, yeah.
Look up Joe Pepitone, and hair. I swear there was something to do with a lawsuit or something. It's haunting me. I can't remember. I disremembered it.
His book, Joe, You Could Have Made Us Proud, is a fine read if you grew up in that era. So it's a fun.
Yeah.
Stories about his death. I'll keep looking for hair.
Yeah, don't say a word until you find it. And if you don't find it, you don't have to say anything.
I'll be quiet for the rest of the show then.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Buffalo Wild Wings is admitting something most customers already know, that their boneless wings are not made from actual chicken wings.
Oh, really?
Restaurant chain tweeted Monday, "It's true. Our boneless wings are all white meat chicken."
They're chickens that must not have bones in their wings.
The sarcasm didn't stop there. The company added, "Our hamburgers contain no ham. Our buffalo wings are 0% buffalo."
Yeah. I think that there's farms where they have chickens that don't have bones in their wings.
Right.
Really?
Yeah. Though they're in demand.
They probably don't have large talons then.
No, they don't. No, that's their feet.
Got it.
The clapback comes after a Chicago man.
I realized that after.
The clapback comes after a Chicago man sued the restaurant for deceptive marketing, saying the boneless wings are basically chicken nuggets and that customers pay too much for them. The man, Eamon Halim, filed the complaint last week with the restaurant against Inspire Brands, who owns.
You know, due to circumstances beyond my control, I had to go to the grocery store a few times recently.
Wow, nice.
Boy, what a lesson that was in life. A guy like me could easily be hoodwinked and do all your shopping from end caps. In
Yeah.
other words, you're walking around the store,
Yep.
and they got all these tempting deals on the end caps.
Right.
So I would just go from end cap to end cap,
Yeah.
like chicken tenders,
Gathering
right when you walk in
supplies.
the door.
Bam.
Yeah.
And
there
I
they
thought,
are, right there.
those look pretty damn good.
Those are called impulse items.
Boom, right in the basket.
Yep.
Chicken tenders.
Yep.
And then right next to them, brownie bites.
Oh, you got to get brownie bites.
Well, what the
So-
hell?
It sounds like you did not take my advice and seek out the assistant of a attractive lass, maybe your age or a few years younger.
Well, I looked around.
Yeah.
But, the point is that you can you can do your regular aisle shopping, right? Mm-hmm. But then you get waylaid by something on the end cap,
right.
and you end up buying that.
It's called
Right.
merchandising.
Right.
Wow, is that a tricky deal to navigate? That's something
Marketing.
else. That's
Yeah.
marketing, man.
Yep.
That's
Oh my gosh.
jeez. Yeah.
I was gonna say this, but it probably isn't very nice. Kenny, you said a lass around his age. Well, they're all retired, so nobody's working.
Wow.
Sorry, Joe.
You could set up a tryst in the supermarket there. Meet
Well,
your next wife.
No, I was too busy.
Eat your next
Too busy being fascinated with end caps. That's just had everything you needed.
You hate Saturday Night Live, but the meet your next wife bit is extremely funny.
I don't
on
know what
Saturday
that
Night
bit
Live.
is.
It's pretty good.
How'd it go at the checkout line with all the impulse items? Were you able to resist? Or did you come away with a National Enquirer, a
Oh
pack
man,
of gum,
I was
a padlock?
I was enthralled by
pack of
the
gum.
checkout items. They had so much neat stuff there. I ended up with a few
Flashlights.
magazines. And,
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
It's just I have felt no need the second visit. I felt no need to go down any aisles. I just went end cap to end cap.
Yeah.
I picked up exactly what I wanted.
Get any wieners?
No, I didn't have to. There were some at home.
Okay.
I had one the other day for lunch. Yeah. Well, thanks, John.
Okay, that is
enough for me.
Anything on hair?
No, but I want to tell you, at this time in 2012, we were riding electric bikes. We were riding scooters. Kids were in those youth 4x4s, four-wheel drive vehicles out in the yard. Everything was copacetic because it was 73 degrees on this day in 2012. Now we're still waiting for the electric bike season. Get to EcoFun Motorsports. Get it all taken care of. You'll be ready to go when the weather turns, and it will turn soon enough. That's EcoFun Motorsports in Forest Lake and Burnsville. Great, great selections of electric bikes, motorcycles, the gas-powered scooters that turn every errand into an adventure, the youth ATVs, great service, apparel, and helmets, and 2 locations, Forest Lake on Highway 97, just west of 35. People want to tell me that's not Forest Lake. That's Columbus, Minnesota. No, the hell with that. That's Forest Lake. You're going to Forest Lake, you'd get off on 97. Just go west, and there's EcoFun. Boom, brand new building. And then in Burnsville, it's on the Service Road of Life near County Road 42. Wonderful website, too. Oh, the golf carts. I got to get serious about that because I've committed myself to getting one.
Really?
Oh,
You're all in?
I'm all in. I
Okay.
think they're pretty nifty. They had one at the golf show.
I know.
Oh, is that cool? EcoFunMotorsports.com.
See you, Rook.
You cannot stop him. He'll just make a move. Joe Souchere.
Space management, baby. Don't give it up, GLers. Don't be like the mayor and renounce your citizenship in GL.
I haven't done that.
Well, you basically have. You've kind of talked around it, but anybody that gives up on space management in early March is a quitter, and we don't like
I'm
quitters here
going
in
with
GL.
what Hovde does.
And I tell you who else doesn't like quitters is Tri-State Bobcat. Right now you can buy Toro snow blowers with the best prices you're going to get all year. That's with the Power Max 2-stage snow blower and the Power Clear single-stage blower. You'll find them in Little Canada, Hudson, and Burnsville. And you're not going to find a better deal. Now is the time. So if you need a snow blower, get out there and let's do some space management. Same deal with zero-turn mowers. I know a lot of GLers already looking forward to summer. Tri-State Bobcat has the best pricing on select previous model years, the Time Cutter and Titan zero-turn mowers. They run from 42 inches up to 60 inches, discounts ranging from 10 to 20% under promo pricing. And oh my goodness, the time you're going to save, definitely worth it. And these things are fun. Call any Tri-State Bobcat, tell them you're a GLer, and just say, Kenny said, let's go here. And Mankey's Outdoor Equipment in Owatonna, now part of the Tri-State family, so everything's available in Owatonna. Get to one of the locations, Tri-State Bobcat in Burnsville, Little Canada, or Hudson, and everything they sell is on the website, tristatebobcat.com.
I'm sure Tri-State would know this. Is there such a thing as a self-propelled single-stage snowblower?
What else
Two
you got on
stages
the
are self-propelled.
What else you got on the show today?
I'm looking at a photograph. Why, did he just talk about that?
No, it's just sometimes, you just...
I'm looking at a picture of a genderqueer shapeshifter.
Okay.
What?
A genderqueer shapeshifter.
What is that?
I don't know if that's a he or a she, and I can't tell from the picture.
Whoa.
A genderqueer shapeshifter provided professional development training to teachers at a Colorado school district and offered instruction on the differences between gender identity, expression, and sex assigned at birth. In a presentation agenda obtained by Parents Defending Education and first reported by the Daily Caller, because no conventional news gathering organization probably would have been thought this was interesting. Thompson School District allegedly hosted a virtual counselor meeting for educators K-12 in 2021 featuring Silen, S-I-L-E-N. What would that be? Silen? Silen Wellington, they, them, a self-described artist of people and genderqueer shapeshifter.
I'm really confused.
Following a public records request, the school district informed Parents Defending Education that they did not possess any training materials, but forwarded an event agenda. According to the agenda, Wellington taught the teachers the do's and don'ts with language about trans identity and the importance of pronouns. All right. That's cool. Mm-hmm. Wellington allegedly also discussed gender dysphoria as a diagnosis, why language matters, dead naming, neopronouns, transitioning, intersex, two-spirit, queer, and non-binary, asexual, and aromantic people. Because I think this is something that teachers needed to know, don't you? Throughout the 2021-2022 school year, Poudre School District also allegedly hosted trainings from Wellington focusing on the ABCs of LGBTQIA and school cultural equity practices. Another training by Wellington at the school district focused on culturally sustaining pedagogy and how educators can tackle interpersonal, institutional, cultural, and structural racism and other forms of oppression. Wellington's a well-known political activist for transgender issues who refers to themselves as a witch and a sculptor of sound. So she's got a lot of things going for her. Genderqueer shapeshifter, also a witch and a sculptor of sound.
Oftentimes when we have discussions on this show, even if I'm unfamiliar with the subject, I pretty much fake my way through a conversation. I'm completely lost with this story.
And usually at the same time, I'm looking stuff up and trying to keep up and be part of the conversation.
Same.
Not in this case.
Their work has been performed in gardens, whispering delightful fey dances to the trans ancestors that escape definition. Their work has featured boys in dresses next to saxophones, prescription label collages amid chaotic soundscapes of dysphoria, non-binary shadow puppets behind sheets of rainbow light, and intramuscular testosterone injections under expansive life-giving harmonics.
I've never heard the term shapeshifter before. Had you guys?
I have, but not in relation to anything that's not a fantasy novel. Or
And that's what this is. And that's exactly what this is.
A person or being with the ability to change their physical form at will, especially in mythology.
Yeah.
I
One
never
of
heard
the
that.
X-Men was a shapeshifter.
I see. There's a lot going on out there, Joe.
It's very ponderous.
Let's talk about sound sculpting.
Yeah.
Howard writes, as a recovering musician and pseudo-audiophile, I can perhaps offer some rationale why some people prefer vinyl LPs to digital media. In no way am I in the class of your esteemed newsman when it comes to for your information. But I have my moments. What follows is my very layman-like explanation of why there is a renaissance of vinyl. Music itself is an analog and therefore physical entity. It emanates from physical vibrations that in turn physically move air. This movement is thought to be better captured and replicated in vinyl form because vinyl has the actual physical vibrations carved into it. The beauty, imperfections, warmth, idiosyncrasies, and all, everything that compiles the audio spectrum. Analog audio is thought to be more natural sounding because it contains all elements of sound, both the music and what the digital media would consider to be impurities. Digital, on the other hand, has either filtered much of the impurities out or they weren't included in the recording process to begin with. There is so much processing that goes into a digital audio media, it's hard to imagine it sounding natural at all. Some people think it sounds sterile or lifeless because much of the natural or analog character, the physics described above, have either been taken out or intentionally not recorded or included in the original audio signal in the first place. Should I read the last paragraph?
Please.
Sure. Additionally, the analog to digital converters of 20 to 30 years ago weren't near the quality they are now. Old albums that were converted to digital in the 80s sounded harsh simply because the technology wasn't what it is now. Think of it this way. Remember the old digital pictures you've seen and how pixelated they were, especially if you blow them up? Pictures look better now than they did even 10 to 15 years ago because the modern photo files have more information, pixels, in them and better technology to interpret the data, which provides better detail. Same applies to modern AD converters. Digital audio media has vastly improved, but it still isn't capturing all of the physics or nuances of analog. It may never achieve that. I don't have LPs because they're a pain and not transportable, but they do sound great. Just one man's opinion, Howard. There you have it.
All right.
That's a pretty good explanation.
Well, it does make sense, too, because if you guys remember the early stages of online streaming, if you go back and listen to some of those downloads, now those songs are unlistenable because they're so bad.
Mm-hmm. Well, I still don't own a turntable. Maybe I have to get one.
You don't?
I long ago got rid of the turntable.
I have 2 turntables and a microphone.
Thanks, Chris.
That's a Beck song.
Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm. Why don't we take a time?
Where it's at.
Holy Snikes, Grandma.
Nikes.
Snikes. Yices, whatever.
It's the end of the world as we know it, and he feels fine. Joe Souchere.
52 years in Monticello. Moon Motorsports celebrating 52 years. Family owned and operated, a multi-line dealer. The whole time, always bringing us the very best in outdoor recreation and fun. Now that spring is here, I want to talk about snow. No, not about snow melting. Let's talk about the Polaris Snow Check. A lot of riders already know that this is the special time of year when you can reserve your 2024 Polaris Dream Sled. The snow check process is really easy. Call Moon today. Get started. I've already been shopping myself. You can mark me down for a Pro RMK Slash. I want to do a little backcountry exploring up at Togety. So that would be the perfect sled for me. Since we're talking snow, Moon has all of their snow gear and apparel on sale right now. 30% off. That's not a typo. That's huge. So if you've been waiting to buy, get into Moon Motorsports. They are our Polaris, Skidoo, Honda, Yamaha, Can-Am, and Euro motorcycle brand leaders, located right in Monticello and on the web, moonmotorsports.com.
Normally, I don't mention these kinds of findings because they're essentially meaningless. But on this occasion, I'm going to do so because I feel so bad for Iowa, our friends in Iowa.
Oh. What'd we discover?
An outfit called Thrill List. What is Thrill List, John?
An online media website that covers food, drink, travel, and entertainment, founded in 2004, based in New York City, purchased by Vox Media in 2022.
Well, according to Thrill List, which is whatever, Minnesota ranks in the middle of the pack for the most beautiful state. Right.
Yeah. Flatlanders.
It shows that, in fact, Minnesota is at 24th in the ranking of beautiful states by something called Thrill List. Ooh. But Iowa is dead last.
Really?
Yeah, I feel bad. Iowa has some cliffs, they say, along the east there, and it does offer some nice sunsets. But the state is flat as hell and boring, according to Thrill List.
More boring than Nodak.
South Dakota.
Yeah.
Wisconsin ranked above Minnesota, and I think so did South Dakota. Yeah, sure.
Who was number one, Joe?
Yeah, I didn't. It didn't say. I didn't print out the whole. It printed 6 pages, but I only got 2 of them. I don't know what happened. But Iowa, I don't think that of you. I don't think you're the ugliest state.
Yeah, it's all right.
I don't know what would be, but maybe it is Iowa.
No, it's North Dakota.
Maybe North
Dakota. North Dakota's pretty good though. Once you get past the Missouri,
yeah,
then it's
same with
state.
South Dakota.
Yeah,
got the Black Hills.
Badlands don't do anything for me.
Yeah. Only because they come to us all the way from, and apparently Tom is back in Johannesburg. Jessica sent me this, the Traveling Lyman's. On this day in 1841.
Joe, today is March 14th.
William Dunwoody was born in Pennsylvania. After moving to Minneapolis in 1869, he found his fortune in the grain and flour business. By the time of his death in 1914, he contributed millions of dollars to a number of civic organizations, including the Dunwoody Industrial Institute, the Minneapolis Society of Fine Arts, and the YMCA. William Dunwoody. On this day in 1919,
Pi Day 314.
Max Schulman was born in St. Paul. An author and Hollywood screenwriter, he is best remembered for creating the character of Dobie Gillis, who appeared in short stories, novels, and television shows. Now, I knew that. I knew Max Schulman was Dobie Gillis. I did not know this. That was based on the family that owned Gillis's grocery store in Minneapolis.
Wow.
I did not know that.
I didn't either.
That's why I do these.
Where was the store located?
Doesn't say.
Okay.
I'm sure it no longer exists. John, look up Gillis's grocery store. I bet it doesn't exist any longer.
Okay.
On this day in 1924,
March 14th,
the last guest checked out of Stillwater's historic Sawyer House, which had operated as a hotel for 67 years. The Lowell Inn was later built on the same site. What's the Lowell Inn famous for? Pecan pie.
You looked at me like I should know that.
You should know these things.
Would you like to partake in some pecan pie?
Pecan pie.
A sports note. On this day in 1960, who was born?
Kirby Puckett.
That's right. How'd you know that?
I know dumb things.
You really do.
He's my favorite baseball player of all time. Why would I
Future
not know his
Baseball
birthday?
Hall of Famer Kirby Puckett was born in Chicago on this day. That makes him what? 63.
Would have been.
He would have been 63 today. Kirby Puckett. And we'll see you tomorrow night.
That's right.
All right.
Gillis Grocery Store no longer.
I didn't think it did.
Yeah, there's one in Lake Charles, Louisiana. That's the only one I could find. Gillis Grocery.
Yeah. Well, Gillis probably is not that uncommon of a name.
Also, the most beautiful state, according to Thrill List, California.
Yeah. Well, I think Iowa got a
California.
bad shake there.
California, Hawaii, Alaska, Utah, and Colorado. Top 5.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
And is South Dakota ahead of Minnesota? I believe it was.
Washington, Oregon, Michigan, Arizona. I'm looking. I'm to 20, and I haven't hit South Dakota yet.
Thanks,
What number was
GLers.
Minnesota? Here we go.
24.
South Dakota is 21.
Oh, look at that.
How about Tennessee?
No, Chris, you just said that to be difficult.
I know.
Thank you, GLers.
Do us a favor and hit the subscribe button on the Garage Logic YouTube channel, because there we are posting daily content for your amusement. And you can also follow us along on all of the social media channels from Garage Logic on Twitter, Facebook, and Insta. And what am I forgetting? Oh, Town Council. For $10 a month or $100 a year, you get behind-the-scenes footage and all things related to the Garage Logic podcast. Find out more at garagelogic.com.
Tennessee was number 20, Chris.
Thanks, John.
You're welcome.
How about Vermont? Is Vermont on there?
I would have put Maine in there at the top.
Maine was 15. Vermont's 13.
Wow. It is time once again here in Garage Logic where we pick up that phone and we make that call to our guy. Josh Arnold, Mr. Money Talk, is with us once again. And boy, now is the time for you to do the same. So don't delay. Pick up the phone and make the call for that free 48-minute financial consultation by dialing 952-925-5608. That number once again is 952-925-5608. You call that number, you get Josh. And you're always going to get straight talk. You're never going to get sugar-coated advice. And Josh is with us once again here in Garage Logic. And Josh, you know what? No introduction needed. The floor is yours, sir. Take it away.
Oh, my goodness. You don't want to introduce me? You don't want to talk about bank failures? You don't want to talk about Bernie Frank complaining that the bank to which he was on the board was shut down, even though they were a major depositor of cryptocurrencies, and cryptocurrency accounts seem to be very fluid, so they tend not to be sticky like other deposits. Congressman Bernie Frank of the Dodd-Frank bill was very upset that his bank was closed down. I can understand that. It's very nice when you learn that what happens when you are a capitalist or business owner and the government decides we don't like the kind of business that you're in, even though it was a highly regulated bank. That's something else again. The banking industry was put into a crisis due to Silicon Valley Bank, Silvergate Bank, and several others based on their, we'll call it, asset and risk management policies. Banks typically were investing longer term in low interest rate treasuries, and when the Federal Reserve increased rates, what happened? Bond values went down. Other than on this show and another show that I do with number 2 son Judd, I have heard very few commentators talking about the dynamic of when interest rates go up, bond values go down. Most commentators, and indeed many others, have been telling investors as interest rates go up, put more money into higher yielding bonds, even if they're of short duration. Do bear in mind something. A year ago, the long-term bond index, long-term government bond index, market symbol TLT, was down close to a third in value, just the same as the NASDAQ index being down a 1/3 in value last year. The only way that somebody would make up that difference would be if interest rates would drop significantly. That's not necessarily the case with stocks. All you need with stocks are rising sales, which will produce rising earnings over time. Stocks will also pay some dividends, and many companies have been buying back shares. As I've said on a continual basis, I am a stock guy, not a bond guy. The banks have gotten caught in the value of their bond holdings going down. We covered this last week, that and then a run on deposits at Signature Bank, forcing the banks to sell their bonds and realize those losses caused their downfall. So I am still not recommending people put money into banks. There are plenty of other places to go. As an example, I know semiconductors have been hit with rising interest rates. Yet with the push for some of the new technology coming on board, including generative artificial intelligence, semiconductors are going to be needed by the thousands. Microsoft, a nice, safe, long-term investment, put out a paper detailing the need for thousands of GPUs necessary to make regenerative artificial intelligence work. That is a boost and a plus for companies like NVIDIA, which is a very expensive stock on both a price to sales and price to earnings basis, but it still is the leader. Also, Advanced Micro Devices, AMD, would be another selection in that area. In light of what's been going on with the banks, take a look at other places that can make you some money. One other thing before we go, can't spend any time, Chris, without talking about the Fed. With the CPI out today that came in line with estimates, given what has happened in the banking industry, the likelihood of the Fed increasing rates 50 basis points at their next meeting, I think has gone away. While some are saying that the Fed should stop raising rates, including me, I think the likely scenario is the Fed moves up 25 basis points after their meeting next week.
Very good advice, Mr. Money Talk. You heard him, GLers. Now's the time for you to pick up the phone and make the call for that free 48-minute financial consultation by dialing 952-925-5608, where you're always going to get straight talk and you're never going to get sugar-coated advice. Josh, as always, thank you so much for the time and the chat. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you again on Thursday.
Correct. Thanks, Chris.
Investment services offered by Josh Arnold Investment Consultant, LLC, a security investment advisor. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. All investments involve risk. All comments and opinions are Josh Arnold's and do not constitute investment advice.
Chris Reavers is a paid endorser.